and all this off. And, all right, you're probably going to hear a little pop. Okay. The air, and let me check my little radio here and be sure I can hear myself. And yes, I can hear my voice. And welcome to Strange, Strange World. I'm your host, Paul Clapp. And if you listen to Lynn Holly's morning show, you heard us talking about the next guest the guest that's on, who's been on, thankfully, several times, and we did discuss the Mandela Effect yesterday. And so hopefully we have some new listeners, because Lynn's morning show is very popular, and this subject is certainly probably stirred up a little controversy yesterday morning by talking about some different examples. But Brian, did you or Carrey or someone want to give just kind of a brief summation of when we talk about the Mandela Effect, what we're talking about?
Right. Well, I think there are some things that in this reality are not the same as we thought they were, and it's pretty obvious. A lot of these changes are very subliminal and subtle. They're ever so slight, but it can really shock you if you're not really awake, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there's so much you can say about the Mandela. It's like I don't even know where to start sometimes. You know, it depends on who I'm talking to. Luckily, everybody here is affected. If I'm sitting there explaining it to someone, I usually try to go real light, and you know, it's like you either accept it or you don't, you know, and that's cool. I'm cool with everybody.
Brian, you may want to kind of define what being awake means.
Okay, let me just define what that is. Being awake is being open. You're open to the idea that things are not the same as we thought they were. Carol, you would probably know more about that subject.
I'm out in the twilight zone, so.
Yes, that's what it feels like sometimes.
Well, one thing, Brian, that when I was talking to the morning show host, Lynn, yesterday, I gave some examples, you know, like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. If not build it, he will come. Mirror, mirror on the wall, that everybody almost universally seems to recognize that I've talked to. It's always been magic mirror on the wall. And then the example of the lion and the lamb is now the wolf and the lamb.
The wolf and the lamb, yep.
And, you know, the bigger things, Sex in the City is Sex and the City, Interview with a Vampire's Interview with the Vampire, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. It's never been that. It's always been, according to this reality, life was like a box of chocolates. The big one that most people, I guess, are taken aback with is Luke, I am your father. It's never been Luke, I am your father. It's no, I am your father, which is much less dramatic than Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, and you distinctly. Yeah, and you distinctly remember that, right? Like.
Oh, sure. You know, and here's the thing with this, and there's examples, and y'all have, you and Theresa and really the whole group that you interact with have done a wonderful job of collecting residue. And just kind of tell us, which has meaning to me, but just kind of tell us, you know, for people listening maybe for the first time, what is residue in an example?
Actually, I have my special guest with me, Theresa. She's never actually been. This is her first time as well. She is my co-star on the show, my co-host, and she is here to talk about residue. Theresa, Theresa, can you tell us about residue? Like, like what it is, and tell us about it.
Thank you for letting me come on your show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming.
This is my first time ever being on a live talk show.
Well, Theresa, I've heard you so much. I feel like I know you anyway. I've heard you on so much of Brian's videos.
Thank you. Yeah, I put endless hours into
She's the residue queen.
Residue, and I mean it's out there. You have to think beyond what you're looking for. Like you have to kind of like, this is gonna sound funny, but sometimes I have to trick the computer into what I'm trying to find. Does that make sense? Brian, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, it's like you have to force the computer to search, or you have to make it work for you.
And I put in, I mean, my whole lunchtime at work every day is spent hunting residue, and when I'm not at work, I'm at home hunting residue. So it's like pretty much residue hunting, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I know I've been affected myself. I don't know if Brian told you, but mine was accidental. Mine happened in December of last year. Well, this year coming up will be a year for me. And mine, I don't know if you guys remember Skechers shoes. Skechers,
right.
Do you remember the T or not? I'm just curious.
I remember I never owned any, but I remember in my memory they had a T just like Chick-fil-A, you know, did not have the K.
Guess what? Guess what? The T's gone.
Yeah. I know. Just like the K is gone in Chick-fil-A. I mean, the K is not gone in Australia.
Mine, when I seen it on the computer, I saw somebody posting something about Skechers, and I said, wait a minute, that's not spelled right. And for my own curiosity, and this is how I woke up, I looked on my shelf, and I actually had 2 pairs of Skechers sitting there I've had for like probably 6-7 years, and I've worn them before on several occasions, and I looked at it, and the spelling, the T was gone, and I flipped out. I literally flipped out. When you first wake up, it's very emotional. It's very shocking, right, Brian?
Yes.
I couldn't sleep. I was scared to go to sleep. I was going to wake up in another apartment or another state or somewhere where I didn't belong. And you go through stages when you wake up with this, right, Brian? Your first thing is you're in shock. To me, my first stage was shock. And you have a hard time believing what your own eyes are seeing because you know your memories, and your memories, I mean, are there. You know what I'm saying, though? Your memories know what you remember. I mean, I remember Luke, I'm your father. I remember Febreze. Did you tell them about the Febreze one, the 2 E's, and now it's Febreze?
Oh, there's residue, actually. Somebody showed me some residue from, what's that new show? Fuller House. You remember Fuller House? This very first episode.
Febreze, yes.
They spelled it Febreze with 2 E's. Actually, 3 E's.
I'm sorry. What is your name, sir? I didn't catch your name.
This is Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I actually, I don't know if Brian told you, but I wake people up when I get a chance, and I've literally woken up people every weekend, and they are totally shocked. And I show them the way that I approach people is I'm not so serious with it. I make it more fun. And when they wake up, they're like totally shocked. I woke up with a grocery guy who was stocking the shelf last weekend in Walmart, and he was literally stocking the shelf. And I said, hey, can I show you something? He said, sure, why not? I took him over to Oscar Mayer Wiener, where they have all the products at. And he stood there shaking his head, and I said, you've never noticed that stocking the shelf? He said, no. He goes, you're absolutely correct. He goes, I remember MEYER, and he totally agreed with me. And these are people who actually are stocking the shelves day after day after day, putting products up there. So I kind of took them around the store and said, see that? So we went on a little Mandela trip. I said, I don't want you to get in trouble. You need to get back to your stocking your groceries.
Well,
I just took them around the store.
I worked for a man several years ago, and he made this statement to me, which I think is still very valid and very valid in this circumstance too. He said, sometimes you see something so much, and that's very true. You're around something so much that if there's a change or something, you just, in your mind, it's the way it's always been, and you really, even though you're looking at it, you don't see that it's an A instead of an E. It doesn't process because we don't, most people don't have the capacity. Well, before it can be processed, your mind has to at least have the concept that things can change. And, what most people would do if they recognize the change is say, well, this is just something the manufacturer had just done. But to go on past that and say, no, it's always been that way, that's a whole lot of out-of-the-box thinking. And it's pretty tough for most people, including me.
Well, speaking of out-of-the-box thinking...
And that's the thing about what Brian was explaining about waking up. I think before the Mandela, before I woke up, I do believe that I was not noticing these changes. And what you just said made true. I've never walked by the Fruit Loops and said, oh yeah, now it's spelled F-R-O-O-T, and I remember F-R-U-I-T. And once these people that wake up, they actually see the changes, because when you're not awake, you're not noticing these things.
Theresa, I used to weave in the cotton mill. I know that doesn't seem like it's gonna make any sense, but let me twirl it around where it'll make a lot of sense and fit in with this. As a weaver, you train to look for mispicks, imperfections, two strings of the yarn being in place, one in different. And once you've done that for years and years, you walk into a clothing store and you look at pants or a shirt and you immediately see the flaws. I do the same thing with body work. I've done a lot of body work on cars, and I can look at a new car and see the flaws, because every car has flaws in it. But you're trained that you have trained yourself to not take things at face value and to see things and then bump them against what you remember them being. So you're kind of have trained yourself to be, for the Mandela effect, like I was in weaving, to look at new clothes. And Brian is really fortunate to have your association, because you will spot things that I believe no one else could, just because you have trained your mind to catch on to them.
Yes. And you know what? Being awake, let me tell you what, when you first wake up, yes, you go through a lot of weird stages, but I've never felt so like everything is real now. And if you compare before I had the Mandela and I have it now, I feel so much awake that I notice things more, and you appreciate things better. It's actually made me a better person. Having the Mandela effect, right, Brian?
Yes, it made me deeper spiritually.
Having the Mandela effect makes you a better person.
I feel like I have new meaning now. And Alyssa says here, because we've been talking back and forth with people, and people have changed too. I don't know if you guys have noticed anything about people changing, but
people, yes. Oh my gosh.
Alyssa says, yeah, I notice with people too. My dad used to be so outgoing, but now he's so quiet. I had to say his order last time we went out. Now he's back to normal. Wow. So we're seeing some flips here going on with people.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Should I tell them? Should I tell Paul about the changing thing in front of me on the computer, or is that something I shouldn't discuss?
No, it's residue, and that's your area. If you want to corner it,
well, Paul. Talking about supernatural things, and along that line of the Mandela effects. I've had a few strange things happen to me. The main thing was I would literally find residue on the computer. For example, you've heard of Yelp, right? You've heard of Yelp?
Uh-huh.
Okay. About a month ago, I was looking on Yelp, and I literally found a picture of a restaurant that said Chick-fil-A, and it literally said Chicfala. And I'm looking at the picture, and guess what happens?
It changed.
Yes. I'm visually watching things now change in front of me. I am not kidding. Like, literally, I don't even turn my head away, and I'm watching it. It's like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like you're watching a picture show, and you go on to the next frame, and it literally changed in front of me. And that wasn't the first thing that changed in front of me. I also had mellow yellow change in front of me because I remember the YELLO and I'm sorry, YELLOW. And when I seen it, there was like a whole bunch of pictures with the W. The W's just disappeared.
Wow.
So I've been witnessing a lot of, I'm constantly, like I said, hunting residue. I've constantly seen a few times where things changed in front of me. And then, Brian, you can tell them about the Fruit Loops story. Remember that one that I posted?
Yeah, the Fruit Loops. She shared with me a photograph that had changed. I saw it for myself, too. She shared me residue on Fruit Loops, and it went from FRUT to FROOT within a day.
Yeah, wow.
Within a day.
You know, and that's something, and I want to ask kind of everybody this, but before that, other people, I was, this is a couple of months ago doing a interview on a couple of guys that do a lot of posting on black-eyed kids, and we were just talking, and he said, the weirdest thing, me and my girlfriend, we were looking up, clear blue sky, which is unusual in itself, big bird flying around, no clouds, and it's just gone. Today, I'm on the phone talking the show up with the morning host rather. And he said, I remember, because we went to school together, I remember what a great voice you had, and there was this one song you used to sing, and you did it so well. I have no memory at all. And I said, well, thank you, but and, I've had the same thing. People come up and say, oh, yeah, you remember when you did this or you did that? And I don't. I'm sorry. And which leads me to there's so many theories out there, like Anthony Patch basically says, we had false memories implanted in mind, which Theresa's residue knocks that in the head. Some people just say it's misremembering. Some people say, well, we've jumped to a different dimension. Well, if we're in a different dimension, why is there residue from the old dimension in it? I have absolutely no theory that makes any sense to me, and anything y'all have, it would be greatly appreciated just to help my thinking and our listeners' thinking, because I don't have a clue what's going on.
Well, there was this thing with the eclipse exactly 33 days ago, and we thought that was going to be the end of the world, right? And then we had this.
It's always going to be there, and then the 23rd of September is coming up.
Oh, it's already here.
That's today.
Today.
Oh, that's today?
Yeah.
Well, it sure is.
Today's
okay,
the day.
Well, we're still here.
Wow.
We're still here. We're still here.
Oh, I witnessed a change right in front of me when I was hand copying. I have it right here in front of me.
Oh, that's right.
Luke.
Tell me about that.
It was Luke chapter 1, and it mentions Elizabeth. Elizabeth is spelled with an S now. It used to be a Z, for one thing. Zechariah changed to Zacharias. Or wait. Yeah, because I wrote Zacharias, and it changed to... Hang on. It changed in front of me from Zacharias or Zacharias.
Wow.
Weird.
Well, I think
don't know.
The thing is,
Zacharias.
a lot of people.
The theory that I think makes the most sense is, and that Mandela Effect can also be viewed as having multiple time bands, and that you have another life existing in a separate dimension, and that you have bits and pieces that peek through. They're time bands that mirror each other. But when you're talking about little pieces that are coming through, that make a little sense.
That makes sense,
Let me
yeah.
ask you this. The earth that I as a child, and I think I mentioned this to Brian, we were on the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy, and the reason I remember that so vividly is because we had a science teacher.
We had the what?
Made the statement that,
You said you had the science teacher? What?
Yeah, we had a science teacher when I was in about the 7th grade, and he basically said where we are in the Milky Way galaxy on the outer edge of it, that there was always a possibility that we could lose the cohesiveness of the Milky Way galaxy and kind of, fly off on our own, and that always scared me. And now we're pretty much in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy. We're about 80,000 light years from where I thought we were, when I was a kid, and we certainly hadn't moved by anybody's reasoning. It's just that we've always been in the middle, and I never remember us being in the middle. If reality is whatever, digitized or a simulation or time bands or waves of digital information that our consciousness constructs into what we see and are, then if there are different offshoots, just like different branches arising from a tree, are we, what we think of as our inner self, as ourself, are we parts, is our consciousness here connected to other consciousness of different versions of ourselves someplace else? I guess that talks about jumping from one reality to another reality. His consciousness, I don't guess he's physically jumping, but his consciousness, he's being aware of one reality and then being aware of a completely, well, not completely different, but similar but different reality. So if this is the case, then what does that say? Is just the rules, the divisions, the walls between different time bands breaking down?
Oh, I think they've always existed. And, I think as human beings, we want to think that things are more set and solid and finite than they actually are. And waking up, when you're taking that train of thought, it has more to do with understanding how creative our universe is and that it continues to create. And we're not, we can guide that process, but we don't have control over it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just trying to kind of, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around anyway. It's like Tom Campbell talks about using a model, and as a way to help understand a complex thing. And I can't really think of a model that would fit in. I think a lot of people like the idea of parallel universes, and a lot of people like the idea that the universe that we were in somehow was destroyed, and we've shifted over somehow. All our consciousnesses has switched over to another parallel universe. That's what some even theoretical physicists say. I don't really go with that much either. I think to one extent, and Brian, Theresa, and Carol, tell me if I'm on the wrong track, probably a lot of the things that the Mandela effect is showing us as far as changes have always occurred, but without information systems like the internet, there was no way to compile it and to basically compare it with other people who had similar experiences.
True.
Yes.
I mean, if you weren't in a regional area where you encountered people who had similar experiences and were willing to talk about it, then no, you wouldn't have been able to do that connectedness.
And, if you think about it, too, the type of lives people lived, my granddaddy, who I dearly loved, had a farm in Tennessee. I'd go to visit him in the summers, and literally he could do anything on that farm, from rebuild his tractor to put a new roof on the house, anything. He was almost self-sufficient. Even the TVs back then, if his TV didn't work, he'd plug it in, and the TV that wasn't warm, he'd take it out and go down to the parts store and get another TV and put it in and keep going. I mean, but his world was much smaller.
Yes.
And if a bag of feed that said Sunnyland suddenly just said Sunland, he wouldn't have questioned it at all. Because it's just not what wouldn't be on his radar. He's worried about the chickens and cows and, growing the crops. He wasn't really worried about that. But, it's a different time. So expand some, Carol, on I love this idea that you're talking about time bands. Can you expand a little more on that?
Well, there are a lot of theories, and I am by far no expert in this area, but there are a number of theories. And let me say that years ago, I considered myself psychic, but I had some very specific experiences where all of a sudden I'm in a situation where I know things, but I'm not looking to know them, but I find that I know things, and I can do that for myself as well as for other people. And so to me, that is kind of representative of what I'm talking about, that we have always lived in extremely creative energy. That, I mean, if you look at it biblically, Genesis is all about creation, and that is the foundation for how we came into existence. When I was a little girl, even, I kind of fantasized when I would hear many stories that God was this person, and he lived in a society that basically our universe, it was kind of like the ship in the bottle type thing, except our universe fit in this bottle, and he was somehow connected to us and directing our lives, whether we understood that or not. So people get these things on their mind, and the reality is that until we're on the other side, we can't be entirely sure what all of that is about. But the reality is that from the very beginning, and let's just say that my background is art, and I have studied formally with a degree. And, when you get back into the art history, people have been finding themselves in altered states for a long time, and they are in touch and have talked about being connected to other dimensions. And whether you want to talk about that as a time band, I mean, there certainly have been both a lot of science fiction writers that, as we know, things that were written 100 years ago have come about. Technology has brought us that direction, and we're continuing that process. So we're in a constantly creative state. Now, that gets us into, where do these ideas come from? Are we in a creative energy and our mind just gets curious and it comes up with these things on their own, or have these things existed in some kind of a time band, or however you want to describe that energy, and are we just picking up on them at different times? You know, if I am saying I'm psychic, does that mean that I know things? They just come to me, or does that mean that what it is that I'm in tune with an energy and I'm allowed to know things with a point of reference within myself that already exist? Do you understand the distinguishment that I'm trying to?
I think I do. I think both suppositions are accurate. I think some people, like Bob Monroe, who had the Monroe Institute, he was, the old term is astral projection, without any training, without even wanting to. I mean, it was just his natural physiology and brainwaves or whatever were such that it would just occasionally happen to him. And being a very wealthy man, you know, he was the one that kind of got Tom Campbell started in the whole my big toe kind of deal, and which kind of proved in a way that if those things are real, there, and they certainly seem to be I guess you'd say a quality of a subjectiveness that can be objectively studied and proven, as it were. One of the things that they did, and the reason I'm talking about this is I'm reading his book now, but they had done some experiments with putting 104 hertz on one side of your head and 100 hertz on the other side, which somehow is supposed to make your brain resonate at 4 hertz, and 4 hertz is supposed to be this magic kind of frequency that opens people up to psychic things. So they were doing things like reading, you'd say, you know, had sealed envelopes, and they were able to, you know, tell the letters in there, and, you know, do remote viewing and those sorts of things. And I've had experience with that myself, particularly as a teenager, not with any kind of formal thing. I can remember me and a friend that was not even really a particular good friend, whether it was on his part or my part, it would probably have to be on both of our parts. I just took a book at random and would run my finger down to a word and stop and look at it, and boy, everyone he was picking it out. I mean, that's wild, you know. Had premonitions, different things, you know, and you don't know that's abnormal, particularly when you're young, because you don't have enough experience to know that, well, not everybody does this. But yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think it's an innate thing with some people, and some people it's you know, they have trained their self to be more receptive. Now, I guess what
well, you know, training means they've made a conscious decision to be open to the possibility. That's
sure.
really all that means.
Yeah. They hadn't closed it out. But I don't know. I'll be honest. The more I get into this, it's interesting, and it's a little bit spooky, you know, because I really, you know, I would hate to think that, you know, I might wake up one morning and my reality be more different than it already is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I worry about that too sometimes.
Do any of y'all feel that, you know, like you were talking about people being different and then it flipping back, is that just all part of this, or what? How does that work?
What was the
Brian,
question?
you were talking about your dad.
Yeah, what was the question again?
You know, you were talking about your dad, who is normally very outgoing and all, and then for a while he wasn't, and then he was again. I mean, do you think maybe something about your dad changed, or you changed?
That was Alyssa in the chat. She was talking about that, how she's noticed people change. I've noticed like there's a lot of these effects. It's just like my dad will not resonate with a lot of these, but my mom will. So it is kind of difficult living with non-ME people sometimes. But you know, that's not to say that we don't love them, you know, because he is my dad, and you know, so, some of the things he is affected by, I will say that, but there's a lot of things that do not affect. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we as a lot of us in the Mandela Effect community, we have the M on our hands, and we Theresa was the first one that ever told me about that. The M on the hand means you're an empath.
Oh, when you talking about on your palm and you see the M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they always told me that meant you were gonna get some money.
Well, let's hope that too.
That's all right too. I always thought that was funny. Yeah, I got a long lifeline.
Oh, I got a question. I got a question for you. All right, without looking at the Egyptian King Tut, his mask. You know, the gold one that they show like practically everywhere. How many snakes are on his head?
I seem to remember one.
Wow. See? You look now, I seen it change from one snake to two snakes, and then it changed to a snake and a vulture, or a snake and an eagle. I've seen.
King Tut was very popular back when in the Steve Martin days, and you know, when he was on tour, as it were. And I remember what I remember just from what you said was one snake. That's what I remember.
Exactly. So that's changed. That's part of history. My history book changed in front of me. It's on the cover of my history book.
You know, everything is changed. It looked like to one extent or the other. You know, and that's the thing. I was talking to somebody in the doctor's office, a guy that used to have a very popular radio show on this station. And I just hit him with a couple of little changes. And some people are very sensitive, particularly when you start saying something about, like, even as seemingly innocent as the lion and the lamb being the wolf and the lamb. But I could tell we were fixing to get into a lot deeper debate than I wanted it to be. And thankfully, I got called back to the doctor's office. So, but I wasn't trying. My point is, you know, the people I talk to, at least, sometimes it's you know, throw a few things out there. And if there's not a bite or any interest, I just leave it alone. I don't push the issue. You know, I have vivid memories of things like holding the 6.5 ounce Coca-Cola that I paid 6 cents for, and it's saying Coca and being a /cola, and that's a memory tied to an emotion, which for me at least is a much more lasting memory. But of course, it's never been that way. It's always been the Coca with a little dot in cola, which I never remember till recently. You know.
Well, that's another thing.
Those emotional things, you know, it's. I kind of feel like I've lost a lot of them. Now, I remember I would beg Mama for Captain Crunch, and that was a luxury for me to get Captain Crunch, and I'd pour it in the milk, and I would read out the letters on the box and hold the box, and it would say Captain Crunch, never Captain Crunch.
Wow.
And, you know, I had that emotion because I felt like, you know, I'm somebody special because my mama spent 30 cents extra, you know, to get this. And it made me feel special. It made me feel loved, honestly. So, yeah, and to see those type of things be different, you know, it's like, I tell you what it's like. Living here now is like putting on a pair of pants that have always been comfortable, but now suddenly don't fit so well. And you look at yourself and say, I hadn't gained or lost any weight. What's going on? That's the best way I can sum it up.
That's a very good analogy.
So what are some Brian, what are some recent, I know there's one I didn't get a chance to listen to it, Dancing in the Pale Moonlight.
Yeah, there's a part in the 1989 movie Batman, and the Joker is supposed to say, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? And now he says, you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? It just sounds really off. And I remember distinctly hearing him say, have you?
Well,
I talked to, there's a couple of experts that I like to call experts, the people that watch these movies a million times, so they know it as well. And this guy calls himself Classic Joker. And even he says that the line changed. Not only that, but the whole origin of the Joker has changed as well. From like Theresa, maybe you can help back me up here. I think he said it started out as a comic strip in a newspaper, but now it's not, or something like that. What was he saying, Theresa? Theresa? He was telling. Yeah, you there? Do you remember when Joker was talking yesterday? He was texting.
Yeah.
And he was telling us about the comic strip joke of the Joker. His origin has changed.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's so weird to me. Like how and there were people talking on the show last night about how we were talking about Polaroid cameras, right? And now we have pictures of history that seem to be more crisp and more in color, you know, than they're supposed to be for their time period.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
I agree with you that I think the future is catching up to
Mandela
the present.
Coast to Coast interview.
What's that?
Did you tell him about time also?
Yeah, time.
Brian, want to talk about time speeding up?
Some people are experiencing. A lot of us are experiencing time speeding up. Do a lot of people think it's due?
Toes and
What'd you say?
I
noticed
like
it.
7 seconds in a minute. We've lost, right? Something like that.
7 minutes to every hour, and some people are saying it may be due to the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance is a frequency. Basically, it's the Earth's heartbeat, and it's going a lot higher than what it was before. And that may be. I mean, we've been hearing about all these earthquakes left and right. In the past week, we've had what, 5 earthquakes? It's been like Japan and Mexico back and forth, and then there's a newer one, isn't there, Theresa? You shared with me off. Something occurred in near California, Northern California. It was last night, in fact, wasn't it? I don't know, but there's a lot of geography changes as well. We have a guy who has a channel, Lone Eagle. And his channel is geared toward geography, a lot of other things too. But he pointed out about South America is almost touching Africa now, and people are saying also he's saying that Australia has shifted further north toward the equator. And New Zealand's location has shifted as well because it used to be up higher. So, and I know you mentioned before, Paul, you mentioned about the galaxy. We're not even on the same end of the galaxy we are anymore.
Oh yeah, the coast to coast.
Yes.
Now what was that, Brian? I didn't catch it.
Okay, we're not even on the same end of the galaxy we are anymore, like what you were saying earlier. And which makes me believe. I mean, like, I have a clear memory.
The AI is kicking in. Can you hear Carol?
Carol, you there?
He's breaking up to me. So.
Carol, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, brother. It's better.
Okay, let me take it off Wi-Fi calling. Maybe that'll help. Is this better, guys? Is that better?
That sounds a little better. Yeah.
Okay. He puts it on Wi-Fi calling. Sorry about that. Okay. What I was saying was the geography has changed. South America is further to the east. It's almost touching Africa. I remember in school, like, looking at Florida in relation to where South America is, and I remember Florida being almost right about where. Okay, you know where Chile is? Chile, or whatever they call it. Okay, it was right, because I actually I had written to the ambassador of Chile, so I know where South America was. Florida lined up with Chile, but now it's not. It's lined up with I think Ecuador. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's definitely off. When I was a kid, the Panama Canal ran from east to west, and now it's pretty well north to south. So, unless they've dug another one.
Oh, really?
And that's because all of South America is shifted over toward Africa, like you say.
Wait.
Brian, what did you think of, I think his name was Ron Horn on Coast to Coast, that interview? What did you think of, what you and Carol and Theresa think of that?
That was a good interview. He touched on the Mandela very lightly, though. I noticed that he didn't really go deeper.
Well, I wish it looked like every time he got a head of steam up, he would throw a call at him or something. I wish he'd just let him kind of let loose for a while. Yes. Because he seemed to have some pretty interesting ideas, and I have not got that book, but I plan to. I think that have any of y'all read that? The book he had?
I haven't.
I haven't read it, but have you read Stasha's book yet? The Mandela Effect. Have you read Stasha Erickson's book yet? The world.
No.
All right, I'll ask her and I'll see if I can send you a copy. Okay.
Oh, that'd be great.
That way you have it. And she really goes into detail. She spent so much time in research. A lot of what she has, I think she said, I can't remember the exact number of pages, but she got a lot of this scientific portion from Harmony One or One Harmony. So she really does break it down with the science. She talks about the Bible changes because she is a theologian. She's noticed a lot of changes, and I think that's kind of where we're heading with this. Is that we're seeing printed text change before our eyes. We're seeing photographs change. I was just sharing with our viewing audience that there's a picture of me when I was 5 years old. I'm holding a crab. I would not go near a crab. That is my doppelganger. That's not me. You guys should go back through your old photographs and see what's different. I'm serious. Some people are saying that they're maybe they have a scar or something like that, or that was changed from cheek to cheek. I've heard stories like that due to the Mandela effect.
Yeah, Brian, can I say something real quick?
Yeah, Theresa, go ahead.
Mentioned the I don't know if you want to, this might freak people out. Have you mentioned the changes in the rib cage in the body? Because it changed again last night.
No way. What happened?
Have we talked about that one?
No, because it's new from last night. What changed with the rib cage?
It changed. Yeah, you might want to bring it up and look at it. It's changed again.
All right, let me see.
Yeah, last night it changed. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about ever so slight changes. There's been changes to the skull.
Oh, it's there. No, I'm talking about the rib cage right now. I haven't looked at the skull yet. I was focusing on the rib cage last night, but yeah.
Well, what's the change? Can you tell me so I know what to look for? Or
for the part down at the bottom where we're supposed to be webbed is now a little bit different.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. So there's more webbing. It looks like, right? Or
did you see it?
Yeah, there's 2 little holes now. Like.
Yes.
Yeah, Paul. What do you remember?
When you were doing your live show last night?
That's when it changed.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, let me ask you. Do you remember the rib cage being webbed? Like, do you remember ribs being joined before?
Yeah, now they're joined.
No, I don't remember it. You know, it's you have the cartilage between the rib cage. That's why on all your anatomical models and stuff, your skeletons, they take that red clay, or usually red or some type of clay, and put it between there to that's where the cartilage was. The biggest thing on the skeleton to me, if you look at a recent skeleton and then compare it to the old Vincent Price house on Haunted Hill, the skeleton, and that you'll see a lot of changes real quick.
Yes.
But yeah, that's, I think, one of the skeletal changes. You know, and somebody was talking about the heart being in the middle, but yet, you know, whenever I listen to it, or when a doctor listens to my heart, there's still a little hair, a little over on the left side. So I don't know. I do know, if you look at people in general, and you think about this, and I can think about my father and just other people who grew up and would be maybe 40 years old in 1940, somebody of that era, all of them, the average height of a person back then was like 5'6" and like $130. I mean, that was the guys. You know, I mean, there's no, and look, this is kind of weird. I wanted to ask you about this. I was trying to see, I went to where they're doing the Mandela Effect Live. It's not letting me click in. It says the browser doesn't recognize the format. But I wanted to ask you about this because I know you're very biblically based.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have, we had like Comey, and Comey was what, like 6'7" or 6'8". I mean, just really, really tall, really big person. In Alabama here, we've got Luther Strange. I don't know. I need to see. I bet Luther Strange. Now, and my question is, let me see if I can see. Luther Strange. I just wonder if there's Luther Strange. I wonder if there's. What do you think? And I think I kind of know about the idea that we still have perhaps Nephilim descendants in our leadership positions.
Yeah,
Have you ever given any thought to that?
I'm almost afraid to talk about it. Honestly, I'm afraid they're gonna come get me.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not casting stones at anybody. But how old is Luther Strange? I don't want to know that. It's not telling me. But I thought it was really weird, and I picked up on it. My wife picked up on it. On that debate last night, when Trump came to the podium and he would have been standing next to Luther Strange. And we know Trump is like 6'4" or something like that. He's a tall guy. Make America Great or some kind of poster went up immediately and blocked off that shot that would have showed a comparison between Strange and Trump until Strange walked out of the picture. And I just have a hard time believing that was an accident. Like I say, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but here it is. Gosh, 6'9".
Wow.
This cemetery in history. 6'9".
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's why they call him Big Luther Strange. Now, I wonder how you could search if you want. I just wonder what percent of what?
I lost Theresa. I'm trying to get her back in here. Sorry, guys. Hey, Theresa. I'm sorry about that. Something happened.
Okay.
Messenger drops out on occasion.
We can blame the AI on that.
Good to have you back, though.
Thank you.
I was just sharing a photograph with our audience also. There's, Paul, there's a picture I have. I could send it to you, and you could share it with people if you want. Go to town.
Oh, let me throw this at you, Brian. In the U.S. population, 14.5% of men are 6 feet old.
Wait, hold on. Wait. What is that? What is that figure again?
Okay, now that's over 6 feet, but only 3.9% are over 6'2". So I bet when you get to something like 6'9", you're talking about 1/10 of a percent or so. It's got to be ridiculously small.
Oh wow!
And so many of these very tall, and that's just 6'2", and this guy is 7 inches taller than that. I mean, and there's so many of these. Oh, here's something. How many people in the world are 6'7"? Let's see what this says. Standard deviation target. That's 6'6". That says. I'm not seeing a quick answer here, but poor methodology. But here's the answer.
I'll send you that picture though. What was that figure on? You said there was a figure about a percentage.
Here it is. Now this is 6'7" or greater. Okay, this is the percent. 0.00024%.
Wow.
9.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Well, wasn't that? Hold on a second. Wasn't that part of Hitler's vision?
Aryan race, giants. Yeah. Believe you're right.
Yeah, but
believe you're right.
I have a picture from Tifton, Georgia. I was visiting, and the Chick-fil-A K fell off on the sign. I took a picture of it. I'll share it with you.
You knew it was supposed to be there.
Yeah, I it wasn't me, I swear. But it's just funny how mysteriously the K fell off, and I took a picture that same day, and I think the next day I called them and harassed them a little bit about it, and see if they remembered it without the K. I got pretty good responses out of it, actually. Maybe it wanted to be like how it was supposed to be.
Let me ask you. I know y'all have had some videos about the Hurricane Irma and weather manipulation, which I totally believe in. I mean, we've been doing it since even before Vietnam, but we were seeding clouds like crazy in Vietnam, creating monsoons. And the idea that, you know, and with the chemtrails, you know, throwing out all the flack out there, they say that we're only getting about 80%. It's blocking about 20% of the, you know, light. And, you know, because of the reflectivity and that sort of thing. But here's the deal. They can heat and cool, well, not cool, but they can heat different sections to drive these things. Now, whether they can get them started or not, I don't know. I suspect they can. But it was real interesting with Irma, y'all. I saw right when Irma got kicked off a YouTube video, and this guy who's really into the weather said it's going to do one of two things. It's going to end up in Louisiana or it's going to end up in Atlanta, Georgia. And then they were predicting it to go on the East Coast. And he said the reason it's going to do that is because this thing is driven, and part of it is to cause maximum economic destruction. So yes, the government has to borrow more money, has to lend more money. You know, it's you know, it's just one of those deals. He said basically it was his opinion. It's not my opinion, but it was his opinion that this is just the show or force by the Illuminati that are able to at least control the people who control these things. And he called it dead on because it, you know, basically kind of petered out around Atlanta and all, which was not predicted at all.
He's correct.
I think you're right.
You are absolutely correct.
Well, it just, I mean, it's just the whole thing. Now, going, and I mentioned the little Anthony Patch, which if you listen to Anthony Patch, Ket Baker.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, you know, his idea that we're having false memories implanted, I kind of understand where he's coming from, but like I say, people like Theresa and people who snatch out all this residue kind of knocks that in the head. But one thing that he does say, and I kind of agree with, is the idea that in these chemtrails or these nanoparticulates, and they're interacting with us in an organic fashion. We're breathing them in, and he believes that when the 5G really hits, it's going to activate these nanoparticulates that are already in our system in such a way that makes us much more controllable. And you know what he the whole Mandela thing with him is he said we're going from a binary to a three-part system. In other words, we're going from zeros and ones to zeros, ones, and negative ones, or zeros, one, and two, and that all this change is actually changing our brain waves and all. But like I say, what knocks that in the head is the residue. I mean, thank goodness for people like Theresa and yourself that pull out this residue, because if it was just a intellectual thing, then you could say, yeah, that would be right. But when you, like you say, you have an old picture of a sign, or you have an old sign, and you have physical evidence, then that knocks that in the head.
Well, again, I've always been concerned about the fact that people come up with theories and then paint whatever they're looking at as a negative, as dark, and so forth, when in fact we could simply be becoming more enlightened as a group, and our consciousness is raising, and therefore we have more people paying attention and noticing what the reality being that everything is a creative energy, and it never stops creating.
You know what I wanted to Carol, and I know the whole idea, I believe, about ascension and that we're changing physically and emotionally, you know, to suit surroundings, an environment that is changing. And, you know, it's like I told Brian last time we talked, Brian, when I was a kid and I sat down with my crayon and I drew a little house and I drew a little mommy out there and I drew a little dog or a cat and I drew the sun. And the color of the crayon that I always used to draw the sun was yellow. But the sun now is just kind of blindingly white. And if we're having to have contrails to keep the sun from, and this has nothing to do with CO2, but if we're having to throw out aluminum flak out there to keep us from burning up, then maybe we do need to change physically. I mean, some of the Mandela physical changes, you know, like your liver has a better capacity, maybe your organs are more up into your rib cage and sheltered. We're obviously, as a group of people, much bigger and stronger. And if we don't eat the crappy food that they give us, I think we would be healthier. But if our whole environment, and you can even say with even our position in the Milky Way galaxy, if we indeed do live in some type of, I mean, if God has created for us a simulated environment that has rules, and these rules are somewhat changing, could he not allow these Mandela effects just to kind of knock us on the head and get our attention and say, hey, boys and girls, there's more to this world than what you see and what you do and where you go.
Oh, I absolutely believe that. Absolutely.
I think it explains a lot. I really do. I really do. I do think now, unlike Campbell, who thinks that there's, you know, that it's all kind of karma and, you know, we're all going to be reincarnated and it's all good. I don't believe it's all good. I'm sorry. I believe there is evilness, and I believe that evilness wants to hurt us in one way or the other, and one way may be to keep us from recognizing who we are, where we are, and what's going on. And I think the evilness has always wanted to control us, manipulate us, and profit from us. And I think it's a viable, powerful force that we have to overcome, in my opinion, through God. You know, through beliefs and trusting in God. And not on our own volition.
Oh my God! You just said that. You just said that when I said I'm fully aligned with what God wants me to do. Oh my God, that's a synchronicity.
You've been doing that a lot, Brian.
Oh man, yeah. We could talk about Category 7 and everything else all day long, couldn't we, Theresa?
Yes.
Hey, go ahead, Paul. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No. I'm glad you did, because you have some really relevant views on this, and it's like you talked. You know, we've talked before, and this is something even Anthony Patch says, and I'm glad he did. He says, and I loved it when he said this. He said, if you are infused with the Holy Spirit, you are a different person. Your DNA is different. You are not necessarily going to have the same detrimental effects that people who don't have that association with the Holy Spirit have when all these things come about. because you have a different physiology. And I love that he said that, and I absolutely believe that we are, in fact, a different person.
And we have to take on that new role, don't we?
Yeah.
I really feel like I'm more handsomer for some reason, like than I was before. I don't know. Kind of. I don't know if I like the old me. I like the new me, Brian 2.0.
Well, I'll be honest with, and I thought about this morning with some of the things I have heard over the past few years that I did or didn't do. I like the new me better. So if I did choose with a different version of myself, I think that it took on the more ascended version and left the devolved version to go a separate way, perhaps. But yeah, I mean that's the change can be certainly something good. Let me ask y'all this too, and this is kind of, I'm gonna talk about my friend Jim Smith from the Alabama Bigfoot Society for a second here. Back a couple of months ago, I interviewed the guy, I believe he lives in California, the supernaturalist, and he's got a great channel, YouTube channel, but it's basically dogman stories. Now, dogman's something I had never heard of until I started, doing that. And it was very intriguing because, I grew up, hearing Bigfoot stories, and there's been Bigfoot stories around here that I personally have heard and that sort of thing. But nothing like this. And this is a creature that is every bit as big as a Bigfoot, but much more aggressive, much more canine-like in its head. But it reminds me of some of the 1980s werewolf movies, like American Werewolf in London. That type of physique, not the old Lon Chaney werewolf, but that. Kind of 7 foot, about as tall as Luther Strange, I guess, so we could say that. I probably shouldn't have said that. Anyway, but here's the thing, I'm fitting it in. There was a dogfoot sighting in Tallapoosa County, that's in Alabama, fairly close, where one was circling these two hunters. And I guess they didn't have their rifles with them, but they finally got an opening and booked out. But here's my question. Now, all these changes, these Mandela effects, there's all these weird things happening. If we're changing, do you think things like Dogman and these different cryptids and all these weird kind of things, are they part of a change, or are they superfluous to the change? Are they just coming with the change, or is this something from a dark side of the change, or what are your opinions?
Wait, what about dark side? What'd you say?
Well, I mean, these cryptids, these new cryptids that have come up, these new creatures that have never been seen before, to any extent, that seems to be getting more and more prevalent.
Do you mean?
Is this part of what?
Do you mean Mandala? Do you mean sort of like the Mandanimals? I think they call them Mandela-affected animals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just like the sunfish. We talked about that last night. Is bigger than a whale, or about as big as a whale. It's the biggest fish. No one's ever heard of it.
I've never heard of a sunfish. I've heard of I think a sunfish was like a little bitty, something about the size of a perch.
I thought so too, but now we have these, and I don't understand that.
Sunfish about the size of a little a little bass, a brim, about the size of a brim. Huh.
Hey, do
Let's see that.
you remember that song back from the 80s, I think it was, or early 90s, where it was Everybody Walk the Dinosaur?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever remember them saying in that song, Everybody Kill the Dinosaur?
No, never said it.
That's a Mandela-affected song because now they say Everybody Kill the Dinosaur. Listen to it.
No, they never said that. I like that song.
I know it's weird because in the beginning part they say Everybody Walk the Dinosaur, but toward once it gets about halfway through, you'll hear them say Everybody Kill the Dinosaur. It's bizarre. But there's tons of Mandela-affected songs. Like I found one about this song by Train, and I remember distinctly, you know, your lipstick stain on the front lobe of my left side brain. Well, now he says brains. He says brains, plural. The front lobe of my left side brains.
Oh man, I see this ocean sunfish can weigh
You see it?
between 247 and 1,000 kilograms. That's 2,200 pounds. But I remember sunfish is just a little something about the size of a brim.
That's what I was thinking too. When I first heard someone say it, I was like, no, wait a minute, that can't
if
be
I
it.
was a kid and there was a fish this big, man, I'd been all over that.
No, and you wouldn't
That
call
would
it
have been right up my alley.
at that point. You wouldn't call it a fish anymore. You'd call it a whale or a shark or something.
Yeah.
You know, you would think it's like calling a twig a tree.
It's evidently a fish. It's not a, you know, the whale is a mammal, but gosh, 2,200 pounds. That's crazy.
I like what Gerald says here in the chat. Says in Bible, take a short death and a miserable and tribulation. You won't die a second time into life with faith. See, there you go. And that's what Tom was saying about a faith-based reality. You know, we kind of live in that. You know that hurricane that hit Florida real bad, Irma?
Uh-huh.
And actually, it was going to be worse than what they said. It was going to be catastrophic, and it was going to wipe out the entire Southeast. I thought we'd have to get a boat down here in Georgia. But
oh, yeah. Well, you evacuated, didn't you?
Yeah, we went to the Carolinas. We stayed up there in the mountains where it was safe, I guess. It was a mass evacuation, like an exodus, they said, on the radio.
Hey, Brian, listen to this. For the first time in 130 years, scientists have identified and described a new species. And they're talking about this sunfish. Said it has been hiding in plain sight for centuries. In other words, doesn't that sound like Mandela? It's always been here, but we've just noticed it now.
That's their excuse for it. There's always some excuse for a Mandela. You know that, right?
They're saying, oh, yeah, it's always been there. It's just the first time we've seen it. What? A 2,200-pound fish, and it's the first time you've seen it? I don't think so. Man,
no, it's really weird. And then I mean, it's really Mandela. I don't cover Mandanimals very much because it is a very touchy subject because it's kind of hard to prove it. I mean, unless you've been out in the field, you know. Have you ever heard of we have bats that pollinate? Did you ever hear about that?
No.
We have bats that flutter around like hummingbirds.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, and that's actually
guess what they call this. This is crazy. Guess what they call this sunfish? Its proper name.
What's that?
Hoodwinker.
A hoodwinker?
The hoodwinker sunfish.
Oh, wow.
I think we're being hoodwinked, don't you?
Yeah, we're being hoodwinked, I think.
That's the real name, the hoodwinker sunfish.
Well, that sure sounds like somebody placing a veil on someone's head, doesn't it? and you know, it's funny, they actually had a cartoon movie I took my kids to see called Hoodwinked. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's just rubbing your nose in it right there.
Pretty much. Yeah. And this 923 does happen a lot. I wanted to talk about that for just a little bit. Because
Yeah,
I watched this presentation that somebody did, and it's kind of, maybe I could play it where you can hear it. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I can share it with the rest of the viewing audience, but actually, yeah, I'll talk about it. I have the picture in front of me. Okay. Now, if you can imagine like 3 pyramids side by side with the all-seeing eye, right? You have one. The first pyramid has, okay, how they did this was they broke it down. M D C C L. I'll probably have to send you this picture so you can see it, but I'll just explain it. Okay, basically, they took the letters off the bottom, or the Roman numerals, M D C C L X X V I. Okay, now if you break that down, you put the M at the top of the first pyramid, the D at the bottom left of the first pyramid, C at the bottom right, C at the top right of the next pyramid, L at the bottom left of the second pyramid. I hope I'm not losing anybody here, but I know 10, actually X, and then VI. Okay, so in other words, you have each corner of the pyramids having these letters, correct? So when you convert the Roman letter to numbers, you have 1,000, you have 100, and you have 10 on the top of each pyramid. Now, when you add them all up, it's 1110. You drop the 0, so it becomes 111. And that is,
wow.
Yeah, and you add each one of those up, it becomes 3. Now, you take this and you have 500 plus 100 is 600. You have 50 plus 10 is 60, and you have 5 plus 1 is 6. So you have 666 at the bottom. Now, if you add 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18, and then you add 8 and 1, and you get 9. So from the bottom of the pyramid to the top of the pyramid, 666 represents man or the beast, okay? So you have a 9 at the bottom of the pyramid, and then you have a 3 at the top, 9 TO3, 9 to 3. I thought that was astounding last night when I found out about this. And they were talking about it. It's funny, they were talking about it in the other chat like the night before. But this is still a great discovery. 923. How often do you guys see the number 23 pop up in your life? I am a 23 myself. My birthday has a 2-3.
Yeah. You know, the whole thing with the, you know, people seeing the, whatever it was, the 111, I talked with a lady the other day, and she said, I just see, you know, her birthday is something, well, I think it's 69 was the last. Anyway, she said, I see it everywhere. She said, I don't know what's going on. I see it on license plate. I see it on signs. It's just crazy. And I said, well, you know, it may be some special significance. What do y'all think about Jim Carrey? What's the deal with that?
He's saying he is basically Theresa, you sent me some stuff on that, and you've been listening, you've been following him more. So why don't you talk about this one, Jim Carrey? Theresa, you there? I think she's on mute. Yeah, but Jim Carrey is really coming out about it. If you notice, he hasn't been in any really big movies or anything like that lately. He runs his own Showtime production, though. And he's really coming out at these award ceremonies like, basically, we're nothing. We're meaningless. He was actually quoting some of Anthony Patch's work about tetrahedrons. He talked about tetrahedrons.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Listen, these nanoparticles, diamond coated or whatever. Yeah, that's the whole shift that he's talking about, going from a 2-dimension reality to a 3-dimension reality. and he's seeing that as causing a lot of the things that we say are Mandela effects. But like I say, what he is saying, if I understand him correctly, and I listened to one of his YouTube videos on Carrey Bacon last night. If I understand him correctly, his thinking is all these things going through the internet is picked up kind of by the collective unconscious and filters into our own sense of reality.
Is that someone's dog?
Yeah.
Oh man, I wasn't sure if that was the AI or it was a dog or something. All right. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Anyway, and that creates either that creates on purpose or accidentally faulty images, faulty memories, which seems a very non-specific kind of way to do it. And like I say, the residue knocks that in the head. But I wonder if something happened on the Truman Show that kind of because it was Carrey that was on the Truman Show, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, the Truman Show kind of. I mean, does your life sometimes feel like a Truman Show?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole. In fact, that's the favorite. That's kind of the favorite saying of Mark Sargent in his flat Earth view, that it's basically, we're living in a Truman Show. Of course, he doesn't normally speak about the simulations and that type of thing, but that's where it leads you to. I mean, that's kind of where he's at in his thinking, which fits in with. I mean, when you get to there, then conceptually, reality changing becomes much less difficult to accept, because if reality is consciousness relating to a data stream, then it's just programming changes or change of venue from one simulation to another simulation. But Carrey, that got me, the way he was speaking to that interview is when you have information like a Mandela effect, and you're trying to tell somebody, you're doing it in a kind and loving manner. You're doing it to help that person. But he just, I don't know, he just saying like, well, I know something that y'all don't know, and I mean.
You saying his stance was different?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like if he really does or thinks he knows something that would benefit people, rather than just kind of being curt and dismissive, explain what you think. And I know on this, on one of YouTube, he talks about he's explaining a little bit more, but I don't know. I don't really know if he's, some people think that whatever they think is that's the way it is, and if you don't believe it, you're an idiot. And I don't know if he's coming from that base or not. I guess I don't know. Is Theresa there?
I think she says she's on.
Have you been keeping up any with Jim Carrey? What he was talking about?
I think she's on the bus ride. Let me see. Okay, let me connect to her again. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
And Carol, you're welcome to comment too on the Jim Carrey thing. Have you heard about Jim Carrey doing that stuff, like coming out about? It's almost like he's Mandela-affected, and maybe he realizes things are different. Okay, I'll try to get her back in a minute.
Okay. Well, I mean, what do you think, Brian? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, if I found a cure for cancer, I would want everybody to know. If I had something good, it's almost like he thinks that everything's figured out, but I don't know, and I hadn't seen any, but the little interview that when he was at the awards show, I don't know, it just didn't seem like he really.
Well,
he was kind of snippy about it or something.
Oh, like you mean maybe he changed? Did he change about it maybe due to his mind or opinion?
Sorry about that.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think he's formulated an opinion, but I don't think he's.
Well, I'm looking at this webpage. This is a day ago. Somebody had a beautiful, bewitching conversation with Jim Carrey, who has returned reborn. So I'm reading this article, to see what it's about. He says, people were wondering where I went. Jim Carrey said with a laugh. And he was calling from his home studio earlier this week in Los Angeles. The truth is, he went on, I was spirited into the forest by a sprite. You know, like the cola, Sprite. And, you really just follow it when it happens. And somebody commented here in the article that maybe Carrey speak for the fact that although he's taken a back seat as a movie star for the past decade or so, he's been prolific in other ways. And this summer, a short 6-minute documentary about Carrey's career as a painter, it was called I Needed Color.
Okay. Look, look, this is him.
I think that it showed me that there were characters being played everywhere. That, that as an actor, you play characters, and then if you go deep enough into those characters, you realize that your own character is pretty thin to begin with. You have this separation and go, well, who's Jim Carrey? Oh, he does this. There's just a relative manifestation of consciousness appearing, and then somebody gave him a bunch of ideas. He gave him a name and a religion and a nationality, and he clustered those together into something that's supposed to be a personality. And it doesn't actually exist. And none of that stuff, if you drill down, is real.
Is it fair to say that it pushed you into some kind of existential crisis?
Fugue state.
I mean, that's what you're saying.
Crisis is an existential experiment, but that's been my life. I believe that I got famous so that I could let go of fame. And it's still happening for me.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
I'm not a part of it anymore.
Wow.
No, you're not a part of. You're not a part of what?
No, dressing happens, doing hair happens, interviewing happens, and it happens without me, without the idea of it. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Wait a second.
It's a little semantic jump, and it's not that far, but it's a universe apart from where most people are.
Is this how? Okay, so you were certainly at one time one of the most famous people on the planet.
No, I'm still.
Okay, you're still one of the most famous people on the planet. Okay. That is a mind-bending experience, and everybody deals with it in different ways. And you also have a particular, you're an artist. I mean, you have a particular personality. So where are you now on that continuum of like?
No, I don't. There's no me.
There's no me.
And it's not personal. So, like, the difference between money and my money is a gigantic chasm. So that's how it feels. It feels like, things are happening. And they're going to happen whether I attach myself as an ego to it or not. There's grooves that are cut pretty deep. From my entire life. There's still an energy that wants to be admired and be clever, and there's still an energy that wants to free people from concern, and And now it goes further. I want to, kind of relate what this is to people so that maybe they can also kind of glimpse a bit of, it sounds scary, but it's not.
Well, it's awfully profound for comedy. I mean, it's very profound for comedy, and comedy is often profound. I think Andy Kaufman he was profound, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. It was the great beyond. And the great beyond to me, it represents Andy, represents artists that are willing to go over the line into the unacceptable and the unexpected, but it also represents, beyond the beliefs in the Maya, in the virtual game grid we're watching and we're involved in.
Does that make you a person who's more at peace with yourself as you don't exist? I can put it in your own construct.
Me a person, but
does it make you?
Yeah, there's peace and there's gratitude and there's wonder and there's excitement, and all of it is happening and rising out of nowhere and happening for no one.
Chris, how did you collaborate on the film? But I got it. No, that's.
I'll stop there, but it's almost blind to me, like he's kind of saying that. Well, and this is a lot of religions, that this is an illusion. So if it's an illusion, nothing matters. I don't really know where he's coming from, I guess is my question.
I think he's kind of taken a step back from the from the world of fame to sort of work on his inner self a little bit, and in the process, I believe maybe he's found God. What do you think? He's found spirituality.
Maybe so. Of course, the thing, Jesus was in the world, but not of the world. I think that's the way. I don't think we're supposed to disassociate ourselves from the world and saying we don't exist, even if in a physical way maybe nothing exists. That's besides the point. I think we're here to do God's work and to come from a state of being self-centered to be more other-centered, and just. And maybe a step is to, I don't know. Maybe that's how he's handling it, and maybe that's where he's going. But I just wouldn't say I didn't exist, because you can take that to the extreme and say nothing really exists in the physical state, because there's no physicality without consciousness and these data streams of information and all that. If you want to get down on that level, but from a practical standpoint, to function in everyday life, you have to assume some sort of a material reality in order to function, because you can't drive your car through a transfer truck and just say, we're not really here, because there are rules to this reality. And if you don't obey the rules, you get dead or have to tap out or something bad, So, but anyway, it's interesting. It's very interesting that he's there, and I just wondered if being in the Truman Show kind of got him started thinking in that direction.
I think so. And then there's that one they mentioned Andy Kaufman, Man on the Moon. I asked our audience if they had seen it. Man on the Moon's pretty good too. That's another one of those.
Oh yeah,
really
now Andy Kaufman, he was kind of a troubled soul, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was special.
Yeah. What is this Great American Cookie is not cookies?
Yeah, how many of you guys remember Great American Cookies?
From the Residue.
Yeah, it's. I used to go there all the time. I worked at Chick-fil-A in the mall, and across the way was Great American Cookie.
Look, I'm gonna let you hear it in your own words.
With S, they have added an S to Great American Cookies or Cookie, and
Whoa.
it's really weird to me. And I talked to two of the employees there, and they said it was Great American Cookie. I said, did you know it changed your American cookies? They said, yeah. It's just. So check it out. Thanks for looking at my video. Have a great Mandela Effect day. God bless.
All right.
Yeah, that's
I
weird,
did not know
isn't it?
that. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I tell you, it's really good, the different ones that you do. Sometimes I'll record something. I'll just record the audio of it so I can listen to it later. And these ones that are just a few minutes, sometimes I'll skip them until later, and I'll record like where there's been a longer interview, a longer chat, or something like that. But that one with Jim Carrey, that particular interview, I hadn't heard. I'm glad I got to hear that because he sounded very sincere.
He did. He wasn't joking. And that brings more credibility to it. I think he's there to turn Hollywood around to becoming more part of the light instead of the darkness. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I do. I think
God gave him that part.
I think he's really trying to. I just scrolling down your channel. Now, have you moved most everything? Is most everything on the Mandela Awareness?
Yeah, people were asking me about that. I changed that because I am with a contractor. Okay, works with the government, so I try not to. I'm actually switching contractors right now, so that's why I changed my name. I didn't want them to think I was a conspiracy theorist by any means, which I'm not. I'm just an investigator. I'm picking up the pieces of a crime scene. That's all I'm doing.
I think it's actually better, and particularly because it's like you say, if you contact somebody and you've got a email that says Mandela Effect Awareness, that kind of gives you some, it kind of opens the door for some questions right off the bat. Oh, now this is one I want you to tell me about. I have not heard this yet. 103-year-old car phone.
Yes.
And I do remember, Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
And that's gone from will not hear that phrase anymore.
And that was about every other week. And I watched it when it was live TV as a kid. And I can tell you I heard that. And I can also tell you on Laurel and Hardy, it was always, here's another fine mess you've gotten us to, not here's another nice mess you got into. They never said that.
Now there's something I wanted to ask you too about the American flag, to see what you remember. What color is the stripe, Paul, directly below the blue rectangle? Is it red or is it white?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I mean, the thing I can tell you about the flag is that the golden borders around it, that kind of goes back to the government and being under maritime law, and goes to, when you have the Act of 1877 that the Congress made us a for-profit corporation, and it goes into all that kind of stuff, and that's why there's gold there. But, as far as that, I just off the top of my head. I do used to think, isn't the red light the top light in the thing? But
yeah, Theresa, we're here.
The green light.
Wait, the red light and the green light?
That's fine.
What did you say about the red light and the green light?
Yeah, I mean, the red light is the top light now, but it just seems like when I was a kid, the green light was the top light. which kind of makes sense because the light most easily seen, I would think, according to the Protestant figure, would be the Bible. And, you know, that's why they would want to make that the red light, but I believe that the red light is the top light.
Well, let me ask you this too, because this is another one with memory. And Evan Powers, I got to thank him for finding this one. It was Tweedledee and Tweedledum. What do you remember? Do you remember propellers on their heads, or do you remember flags? Little green flags, or were they green propellers?
I remember propellers.
Yeah, now it changed. They're wearing flags on their heads now.
That doesn't make sense.
No, and there's all that residue out there.
They had on a beanie cap, and the beanie cap had little propellers on it, but they have flags.
Yeah, they have flags. And then we have the word president is in the Bible. If you look at, I have to find the verse specifically where it's at, but it's in Daniel, book of Daniel.
President?
Yeah, the word presidents or president is in the Bible, King James.
Oh man, I see that. This is not right. Now this one doesn't have one. I'm looking at Tweedledee and Tweedledum costumes, and they have flags. Let's see this one right. Here's one with propellers.
And you remember propellers
Tweedledee,
too?
Tweedledum images, and it shows one with propellers.
I'm looking at. Oh wow! Hold on a second. Now. Okay, so we have in the book of Daniel, Daniel 6, verse 2. And it says here, and over these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. And Daniel 6:3, it actually has it in 6:3, 6:4, 6:6, and 6:7.
Well, doesn't it have something about the Queen and the preference to the King James Bible? There's something about the preference. In the very first, it's talking about something about the Queen that never used to be there.
Oh, in the preface, yeah, I heard about that. It actually had, didn't it have like Queen Elizabeth or something like that in there?
Yeah. But I was looking at these Tweedledee and Tweedledum costumes, and some of them do have the hat with the beanie hats with the propellers on them. So I don't know. I don't know why there's flags on some and some. Here's some, and these have the little propellers. Evidently, some people remember them with the propellers to have costumes that have them on there. So that's just Tweedledee and Tweedledum costumes, and
try and get Theresa back real quick. Carol, what do you remember about the Tweedledee and Tweedledum?
Propellers.
You remember propellers too?
Me too.
Wow.
There's actually several pictures here with the propellers. So, and these are costumes that are currently for sale. So, I don't know. I wonder if I could go to.
Hey Theresa, where's that thing you found me earlier about the Statue of Liberty? You found me proof on Ellis Island or something like that? Statue of Liberty?
Oh, you mean you're talking about like the dumpster one?
Yeah, the one that you sent me this morning, and it had proof, like Ellis Island. There's a lot of people that are.
Hold on,
Paul, a lot of people remember the Statue of Liberty being on Ellis Island as opposed to Liberty Island.
Let me go back to it. Sorry. Give me a second here.
And for them, and these are people that some of them are from New York. They're from that area. They have a clear memory of it.
Let me go back and see.
She's going to share with me the residue here in a sec.
Hold on, let me just go back. Was that this morning?
Yeah, she just showed me where the Arby's logo changed as well. If you guys look, the Y looks different. I don't remember the Y looking like that. I don't know. It's with logos sometimes it's hard to.
Brian,
you know.
did I tell you about the lady I worked with from New York, and she lived there in the 70s? And I said, "You ever been to Staten Island?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "How'd you get there?" She said, I ain't the one way to get there is on the ferry. I said, "You know, there was a bridge there built in like 1961 or something." She said, "No, it wasn't." And she had to look it up, and she could not believe it. She said, "There was not a bridge when I was there, I guarantee you."
Well, there you go. And
I think this is the one for me.
Okay, I'm seeing buildings pop up here and there in town. I don't know. They're working really fast, or maybe I'm just slow at catching them. But I do see buildings, and I see trees popping up in places too. It's weird. Maybe it's all part of it.
Speaking of that, real quick, these little, I say little, they're not exactly little. These time shifts where people, you know, they'll turn down the street. They've always gone on going home, but yet everything will be like it was maybe 40 years ago. They'll see old cars, and they'll get to them street and turn back around, and it suddenly flip back.
I see.
Now, could that be part of all of this Mandela going on?
Wait, could what be part of the Mandela? I'm sorry.
Yeah, all these little time slips where people. Well, I'll give you a quick example. A friend of mine, a lady I work with, was coming to work in Auburn in a normally kind of heavily populated area. It wasn't heavily populated that time of day on the road. And she looks over to the right, which was a empty field, and saw a group of Civil War, Yankee Civil War soldiers. She said they just looked beat, and they were marching. I mean, they would just look like they had just been through it. And the head one, or the one right next to the head one, turned around and looked at her, and as soon as their gaze is caught, they were gone. Now, could that be part of this messing with reality? I mean, if we're, well, let me just ask you this: do you think that this Mandela effect is something that man is doing, or something that's just occurring naturally?
That would probably be a question for Carol. Carol, can you help answer that one?
I think it's occurring naturally.
So,
and that's not the first time I've heard that story. That's a fairly common story.
Oh, I found it. I found it, Brian.
Things like that. So, I mean, you don't think the D wave or sun or plays any part into it?
Well, you know, again, I don't think that we're going to know entirely from our end. I mean, we're only going to pick up some of the information. So, but I think my personal feeling is it is a natural occurring thing that gets back to the idea of time bands or existence bands, really, really creative energy, and that things can be happening all at the same time.
Yeah. I think it could be something naturally, but I think it also is the possibility that much like the weather and other natural things, we're mucking about with it for various reasons.
Yeah, I got it.
But you have to realize I'm a very jaded person.
Well, I don't think that's being jaded. I think that's being practical, because that is the human nature.
Yeah.
That's human nature, and you know, it gets back to, you know, is your cup half full, half empty? It's all a point of view. It's one person's going to look at it as an opportunity to seize the moment, makes money off of it. Somebody else will look at it, and it'll be a spiritual, you know, premonition. Somebody else will look at it, and it'll be something else. Yeah. So
And we have a long history of mucking about with
Oh,
natural
yeah.
things, whether they be cattle or who was that? The Friar Mendel, who did the peas and all that, and we started figuring out about recessive genes and dominant genes and all that stuff, all the stuff you learn in biology. So we have a long history of trying to manipulate things for our own purposes, whether they're to go against our enemies or to aid our allies or ourselves. So I don't know. Brian, was Theresa, what did she find out about
She found out tattoo was found. Can you find me a minute marker, Theresa? That way I could present it. I'm trying to find it specifically where it says.
It's throughout the whole thing. That's the problem.
Well, it's like
throughout it.
It's like 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
And then I just lost her. Messenger crashed again.
Yeah, we've kind of run out of time.
It's okay.
We can save that for next time. Oh, and I want to tell anybody, and October 28th, in Valley, Alabama. If you don't know where Valley, Alabama is, it's probably about Valley, Alabama is probably about 20 minutes from Opelika, probably about 25 minutes from Columbus. It's right here in East Alabama, and we're going to have two wonderful speakers. Mr. Jim Smith from the Alabama Bigfoot Society is going to be talking about area UFO sightings, area Bigfoot sightings, area hauntings. And then our special guest, too, is Mr. Brian McFarlane, and anybody he cares to bring with him and to talk about the Mandela Effect or anything that really you want to talk about. It's up to you. And we'll be in the hood room, but we can expand into the next room if needed. It'll be 1 to 4 p.m. on a Saturday, October 28th. Free admission, and y'all come. Hopefully we'll
free food too. Free food? Will there be free food too?
Free food? I'll have to check on that. Now, that's a good question. What would y'all like? Because I had never had caviar, so if y'all want caviar, you probably have. I could probably have chips and Cokes and that type of thing.
Chips and sandwiches, something like that, maybe,
Yeah.
I'd help you furnish it a little bit,
No, that's no problem.
You sure? Okay.
That's no problem. Yeah, I could get some Oscar Mayer bologna and make some Oscar Mayer bologna sandwiches.
Well, let me ask you this though: is it hard for you guys to eat something that's Mandela affected? Because I don't buy Oscar Mayer anymore because of it. Honestly.
Well, I'll tell you, I just traded my Chevrolet for a Ford, and I hate it because it's got that logo on it. Let me tell you the way it is. I know I'm running a little late, but
it's okay.
Did you ever hear the story about the proud Indian chief, and they'd been put on the reservation, and all they had to eat were these federal dates, these little dates, and he bit into one, and there was a worm, and he threw it out. He bit into another one, there's a worm, and he threw it out. He did that 3 or 4 more times, so he cut the light off and started eating the dates. And that's where I think we are. I mean, I can't change it. I can't change it back like it was.
No.
So I'm going to cut the lights off and eat the dates and just ask for God's guidance and go from there.
I think that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad to have friends like Theresa and Carol that are really close to me, and of course you as well, Paul. I'm really thankful for all of that.
Well, I'm so tickled to have met you, and and it's like I told Mark Sargent, y'all are doing God's work, and then You know, you really are. And I think that's part of our purpose of being here is to love and care and you know, help people, including ourselves, find the truth. You
Exactly.
know, to live here in darkness is not an option for me anymore.
Do you remember one of Jesus's last instructions he gave to Peter?
No.
He said, "Feed my sheep." He said it 3 times.
Oh wow.
So we you know, as we grow from a boy or from a young person to a more mature person, you know, we do have to accept the responsibility that we have, and you know, pretty much take it by the reins. And you know, we do have to go about it not as a child, but as more of a grown person. So I don't know. I had something else I was going to say to add to that, but I came up with a really good quote yesterday that somebody helped me, I guess, sort of get the idea. But basically, you know, we live in the past, present, and future. We filter our past. We root ourselves in the present, and we can therefore alter our future. And and I may have changed that slightly for presentation today.
Well,
but,
that's good. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. That's perfect.
Yeah,
my friend.
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Well, we've just come to the end of the show, and I hate it. We're gonna have to head out. I think the ball game may be coming on. I don't know what the we're hooked up with the ball thing, so they're probably doing a pre-show. But I do appreciate it, and let's get together on the radio one more time before the end of October, and we can catch up. And Carol, I thank you so much. Theresa, I thank you so much. And Brian, as always, man, you know, I love all of y'all. Y'all are doing so much good and influencing so many people in such a positive manner. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Again, I'll be on next week for the listeners.
Okay.
Same time, Strange World. Thank you so much. And I'm headed off the air.
Hey, Paul. Wait, Paul. How can they get to your website? What website are you?
I'm not on right now. We're looking at that. We've had a few little changes. We're gonna have a format change, I think. And
okay.
I don't have any internet action other than people I talk to, like yourself and Mark Sargent, or others who record it and put it on. But I'm not live on the internet. But my show was and may be getting back on live, but currently I'm not. But if you're in you're in the area here, if you're between LaGrange and Auburn, LaGrange, Georgia, and Auburn, Alabama, you can be 9 a.m. So every Saturday, 1 to 3. So
great.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes,
appreciate it.
Thank y'all again. Take care and God bless.
You
All
too,
right.
sir. And
Bye-bye.
thank you out there, the special audience. Goodbye, and have a great Mandela Effect day. God bless.